Welcome everyone to Ask the Expert. And today we definitely have an expert coming from the Authors and Speakers Visibility Playground. And today we're going to do some techie stuff, which is kind of fun, because one of our biggest challenges now is that we really have to do everything online, right? Everything, all the things that we used to do, even our networking that we used to do when we go and sit for lunch and gab and talk and spend hours connecting with people. We don't get to do that anymore. So now it's all about technology. And those who haven't been so techie savvy have to get up with the plan now, because things are so very different. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today, is how to become more tech savvy, how to switch your lives so that you can, have effective impact on people through technology. And this isn't going to be all about social media or anything like that. This is going to be the real thing, so that you can get on your computer and start working with other people. But first, I have to do this little thing, so I'll be back in just a second. And welcome back to our Techie Friday Ask the Expert. You know, our guest today is totally solutions oriented when it comes to technology. She's a great coach, and everybody calls on her. I call on her too, because she's so phenomenal with it. And she's good with smartphones. She's good with tablets. She's good with computers. And we get so stuck on all this stuff. Have you ever noticed that? I mean, it's just difficult. And I spend a lot of time helping my clients. And when I can't help my clients, I send them to this fabulous, fabulous coach, because she has so much patience, and she really has a great sense of humor too. So even though you're frustrated and you want to tear your hair out, she'll make you laugh about it, and it won't be nearly as bad as you thought it might be. And she'll help you get out of that overwhelm, because I think that's my biggest problem, is that miserable overwhelm. And she's been around in IT for 4 decades, and she's done 22 years of teaching thousands of people to use technology effectively. Let's welcome Barbara Berry to the show. Hi, Barbara. I'm so glad you're with me today. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Charlene. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, I know how busy you are all the time. So for you to be here with me, that means a lot. So share with me a little bit about how you are supporting people. What is it you're doing, and what do you find people are the most frustrated with?
Wow. A lot of the dependence on video conferencing these days is horrific. For many people, just the idea that they have to sit down at the computer, click on 17 things. Oh, finally I get here. And then the internet goes out, or the lights turn off, or the computer goes into an update mode. Oh my gosh, this happened.
Yeah, I think that update mode, that's a really good one, because you think, oh yeah, I'll just update it, and you forget. And then you're doing something like this, and right in the middle of it, it goes, okay, we'll be shutting your computer down now.
Can I tell you that one of the first times I was video conferencing, this was about 10 years ago, our daughter was in Geneva, Switzerland, doing volunteer work. And she was showing us her room and the view and everything. And we were on Skype, and my computer went into update mode. Oh, what a heartbreak.
That was the automatic, right? The
automatic? That was the automatic update.
Yeah. So the first thing we learn here is that you shouldn't put your updates on automatic. It could be a real problem if you do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. You always want to have control. When would you like to do your update? And you tell it, okay, at a certain time of the day. And I've often ended up being still on the computer at that time. And it would ask me, do you want to do the update now or delay? We'll delay it. We'll delay it.
Yeah, because it takes sometimes all night long to update these things. It's crazy. And
Yeah.
when you click update, it's only setting it up, right? It's not really doing anything just yet.
It can be awful. And then, okay, it finally shuts down and you think, oh, okay, it's done. And then the next day you turn your computer on and it's got to go through another 10 minutes or more of stuff. I'm not ready yet.
So Barbara, I was asking you what you thought the biggest challenges that people are having right now, and you gave me a really good answer. Would you like to expand on that?
On the video conferencing, I'd love to. I've had people who have been wanting to connect. One client wanted to connect her mother, was in her 90s, through WhatsApp to this woman's son, the older woman's grandson, who was living in Australia or New Zealand at that time. And she didn't have things set up. It was something she said, I think I would like to, but she had other things that we had to do first. So I don't know if that worked out for her, but one of my nieces speaks regularly through WhatsApp, does a video conference with one of her friends who is on the other side of the world. And Zoom, gosh, biz people have been using it for, I don't know how many years. I think I've been using it for about 2 or 3 years. And it's just so wonderful. And now, since the onset of COVID, my friends who are still classroom teachers had to quickly shift and learn how to use it, learn how to manage Google Classroom. So I was helping one of my friends to get those things set up because she didn't know how to do it herself. So
when you say Google Classrooms, explain that to us, will you?
Oh, goodness. Well, you know that a typical classroom includes a lesson plan, what you're going to work with today, the materials for it, a way for the teacher and students to interact, and ways for the students to submit their work and teachers to give feedback. So I've seen parts of this when I left the classroom 5 years ago. A few teachers were using it. I did not need to use that, and I kind of preferred Microsoft. So I had everything set up in Microsoft, but other teachers said, "Oh no, they were comfortable with Google." So and then they can and you can do this with Microsoft as well. Put comments. Almost, it's as though you have the paper right in front of you, and you can add a comment. Incomplete sentence, or what's your point, or this part is unclear, tell me more. So that all is very powerful, but so many of them need to be using Zoom as a means of giving the presentation, and often using a PowerPoint or other slideshow program to show, this is what we're talking about today, this is how the concepts relate. So it's so exciting what we can do these days, because it was not that way when I started out. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Tell us how we can integrate PowerPoint into Zoom. How does all that work?
That's a great question. You need to know PowerPoint itself, and that is it's a slideshow program where you make you put in a title and you put in some graphics, maybe a diagram, and the main points that you want to make. And it could be just 1 or 2 points per slide. You don't want to jam everything in there. You want it to be easy for the eyes to take in. So so you develop the PowerPoint, and then you actually get into the mode of showing the PowerPoint, no longer editing, but showing it. And then as you're showing it, you can be speaking and explaining just like you do in person. And you can ask, does anyone have questions? Okay, let's say we're in a Zoom. Does anyone have questions about what's on this slide? It's like whatever you put up in the classroom. So it's creative, it's interactive, it explains. You can use PowerPoint to explain things very well.
But it has a lot of bells and whistles. I have no idea how to use. I was trying to use it the other day for my challenge, and I got so I could put, one thing coming in because I was doing video, and then the next thing came in. But when I got to the third thing, they weren't all lined up, so it was like there's a lot of little things that you really have to know about PowerPoint in order to make it work properly. And there's so many images and designs you can create. I couldn't figure any of that out. Is that what you teach? You teach that in your class?
Yes, I do. Yes, I'm teaching PowerPoint for 20 years.
20 years. So you must be really good at putting those things together.
Yes, it's the things like what you're talking about is the animations coming in. Okay, there's one, there's the second one, and then why isn't the third one coming in, or why is it coming in at the same time as the second one? And that's not what I want. I want it hidden because I'm talking.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
And it's a lot of slide after slide after slide and duplicate. I noticed when I was doing it, because I was doing arrows. And so the arrows were pointing at what I was talking about. So I had like one line, and so then it took me longer to do the PowerPoint and load it into iMovie than it took me to do the whole movie. I couldn't believe it. I thought, I really need Barbara.
I've been there and done that, and then you may want. Do you remember Mitch Miller?
Yeah.
And the little dot that would go over the words.
Yes, that would do the words.
Yeah, it was before karaoke, right? We sang along with our TVs.
Yes, and can you do that? Can you do that with PowerPoint? It would have to bounce in, and then you'd have to do the next slide and bounce it in, then the next slide and bounce.
There is an animation that bounces in. It looks kind of funny, and it depends on the tone that you want to present. So if you're talking to kids and you want to have all that liveliness going on, then put it in there. And to force my students to experiment with the different animations, I would require, say, that they'd have 5 different animations. So in one slide, everything was bouncing in. Others, they'd just kind of swipe in, or they'd swoop in, or crazy stuff. But then I tell them, now you're going to be doing this project in coordination with your Spanish class. So it needs to be all one kind of, okay, they all come in this way or they all bounce in, but no variety. Because you don't look serious. And then when you're putting information in, the new trend is to have just one or maybe 2 points on a slide, and nothing that's very long, because the more text you put on, the smaller text, the smaller it gets.
Yeah, I've been in some of those seminars where they just jam pack all this stuff on the slides, and oh my gosh, make it another slide. Don't have it so many on one slide.
Exactly. I literally had a pair of students who were working on a project who were going to Microsoft Encarta, in those days, encyclopedia, and the web, to get information for their PowerPoint for another class. And I said, number one, if you are copying text directly, you have to put it in quotes and show that this is not your own wording.
Mm-hmm.
And on every slide, you need to show me what your source is. So they had to copy and paste the web address or whatever source as well. And these 2 girls, that they were so happy that they found this information and copied this big chunk of text into their PowerPoint. When they went to present it, they couldn't read it.
Yeah, that's how you learn the hard way.
These do happen, and worse things happen, and you just say, okay, well, I didn't break it.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't break it, except kind of hurt your eyes. So my whole attitude about working with the computer is there's really not much you can do to actually break it, unless you spill water on it, or you drop it, or you zap it electrically. So experiment with it. And that's, I have stories, stories and stories that help people recognize they're not the only ones.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just like I said at the top of the show, is the frustration of trying to accomplish the goal that you intend. And it seems like the deeper you get in, the harder it gets for some reason. And then, I sometimes I just want to jump up and down on the computer. I get so frustrated with it. And it reminds me of when my mom used to sew for me, and she couldn't get it to go right, and she'd just throw it on the floor and jump up and down on it.
I love that reaction.
Yeah. And sometimes that's how I feel about the computer, because it just won't. You have to figure out an end around, because it won't do what it is that you want it to do.
Exactly. As long as you do your jumping around, not on the computer.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a new class coming up. You were mentioning to me. Tell me about that.
Yes, I do. It's how to use Zoom. Zoom has so many features. I have used it to create an iPhone course, where I was able to show my iPhone on the screen, and my users had approximately the same model. So I'd say, okay, when I do this, watch the screen does something else comes up, camera or whatever. So you can share your screen. When you're presenting that PowerPoint, you have to share your screen. If you are teaching something where you're helping someone edit something, they can share their document on the screen in Zoom, and you can say, okay, well, I would type in this and that and blah blah blah, or move this around and put something else in there. So you can not just share your screen, but there are wonderful ways to work collaboratively. So, for instance, in a classroom, I often had students work together on a project. As an English and history teacher, I'd say, okay, you 3, you are working on this. Each of you come write your ideas out and then get together and discuss them. In the computer room, when we do a similar kind of thing, they would they'd be meeting face to face.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom, there's a thing called breakout rooms. And so you can send those 3 people to work together away from the rest of the crowd, so they're not distracted by whatever else is going on, but they can have a very focused conversation about what their project is, share their ideas, their thoughts. So that's one of the really cool things about it.
I really enjoy working with Zoom because it's so much easier than Skype ever was, and it connects so much better. And the other thing is that I love the breakout rooms because when I teach a course, I can put a couple people in there together to interact, and it also gives them an opportunity to get to know each other better. I like that too.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah, because you can't. The kid you sit next to in class, you might get to know a little more if you're turning around to talk to each other. But otherwise, how are you going to get to know other individuals who are in that same virtual meeting space?
Yes,
it's very
agreed. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge when people are starting to work on Zoom? I mean, I've seen some people that look so unprofessional. I mean, just watching Facebook, I can't believe what I see. And people walking behind them, which, you really can't do that unless you have a document that says that's allowed to have them walking behind so that you could show their face. But they don't even know. I mean, they're so oblivious to what they are doing on Facebook.
Zip. You've heard the expression, discretion is the better part of valor.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Discretion is use a solid background. You have a background, I have a background. If you're in the middle of people, who knows who's going to show up in there, or what, if they're in their pajamas or whatever, especially people who are working from home now and they have their families around and pets and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, dressing professionally, having decent lighting so that you're not in the dark, and then of course your correct camera angles and things like that. You don't want people to see you from your chin up.
Like Kilroy is here, right?
Or, looking up your nose, or they're so far down on the screen that all they see is your forehead or your chin. And there are delicate ways to suggest that to people. Also, every time I reach down and if I'm active on my screen and everybody is looking at this array of people in the group, that's so distracting.
Or if they leave, oh my gosh, where you just got an empty seat, it's so insulting to the people that are still there.
Exactly. At least camera and have your still picture come up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So you teach all this in your Zoom course?
A lot of those etiquette things, the public speaking habits. Things of that sort.
Yeah, it's really important to know before you ever get on Zoom, because if you aren't professional and you don't have a professional look and a good background, I mean, I've seen some of these backgrounds where they leave the closet open and it's just a disaster. And another one, here's my favorite. Another one, I was watching this gal, and it was very, very interesting until this guy walked behind her in his underwear, with not even a shirt. I mean, just underpants, And I thought, she could have told him. So that's one of those bloopers that show up later, right?
Exactly. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And yes, as a classroom teacher, in the computer labs, I would tell the kids, if anything shows up on your computer that is not appropriate or makes you feel uncomfortable, turn off the screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And call your teacher over if it's happening in your regular classroom or.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see that.
Exactly. Well, Barbara, tell people how they can reach you, would you?
Yes, I have my email address is Barbara, Barbara,
Okay.
Barry Basic, BarryBasic.com. It's a play on my last name, Barbara Barry. So I take you from very basic skills to very advanced. That's my email address and my phone number. You can text me.
No, we don't do phone number on here. Is this
beg your
right?
pardon.
Did I get it right?
You got it perfectly right.
Good.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
All right. So you're available to help people with their computers or their smartphones, or you can, when your class starts up, your new class, I'm very excited about that. Yes. Then people can come in and learn Zoom, and then you have another class for PowerPoint. I mean, you're just the techie whiz. That's what I love about you. It's so awesome.
I'm always willing to play and experiment, and people have a problem. Okay, it takes some creative thinking to come up with solutions.
Awesome. Wonderful. So do you have any final thoughts for us?
Number one, if you're on your computer, always back up your files.
Yes, agreed.
On your phone, always back up your phone or tablet. And if you're having trouble with those things, I can help you, and you can access them from other devices. Most importantly, remember, the computer is not any smarter than you are. It's meant to complement you. It's a tool. It's a tool. You can use it to explore the world. You can use it to communicate with people that you want to communicate with or hear from. Be yourself. Be your beautiful self, because what people miss most, especially during the pandemic, is real human connection. And I can't reach out and touch you. You can't reach out and touch me, but we can connect heart to heart.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with me today, Barbara. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Charlene.
So everyone, thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot based on what Barbara shared with you. And do keep in mind, she works with people all over the world, and she is such a solution-oriented person and couldn't be a better technology coach. She's so wonderful to work with. Did I say she's wonderful to work with? So thanks for being with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a really fabulous week. And if you haven't already, please join the Authors and Speakers Visibility Playground. That's where all the heavy hitters hang out, and I know you are going to absolutely love being there, because they help you out so much in that group. So I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend and take care.